And I'm joined now by one of those young activists, Claire Vlases, as well as Mat Dos Santos, who's the general counsel and managing attorney for Our Children's Trust. So, Claire, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Just first tell me your reaction when you heard about the decision. How did that feel to come up with such a huge victory?
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it felt incredible to finally be heard. I guess we've been working on this for so many years. It's nice to have it finally come to fruition.
Well, talk about that. I mean, what led you to take this step? Why did you think that this was important? And why did you and your fellow plaintiffs decide to put yourselves out there like this?
Oh, gosh. Well, I grew up, in Montana. Everyone cares a lot about the land and about protecting that. And so I wanted to do everything I could to protect the land that I love so much, whether that be my family's small farm or just the outdoors. It's really important to me.
Yeah, I just actually got back from a reporting trip in Montana. I can understand why it is so important to you, because that is some of the most beautiful country in the world, much less in the United States. So, Claire, I know that you had a lot of help from Matt and the legal team that was involved in this process, but talk a little bit about how you and your fellow plaintiffs, how involved you were in the lawsuit itself.
Yeah, we as plaintiffs are really involved. With the help of the OCT team, we were able to share our story and talk about how climate change has impacted us personally. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, Matt, add to that. I mean, how important was their contribution and their passion associated with this issue in terms of the case that you and your team built?
Yeah, the Our Children's Trust is a nonprofit law firm that represents young people around the world who want to hold their governments accountable for their role in climate change. So at its core, these cases are about those young people like Claire and their stories and how they're being harmed when the state takes actions.
So, Claire, I know that there are some members of this lawsuit, some of your fellow plaintiffs, that are as young as 5 years old. And it is somewhat remarkable to see that such a young group of individuals were able to take on such big, powerful interests. Do you think that you and your fellow plaintiffs would have been successful had you not been so young? Do you think that was part of what made your argument so effective?
Yeah, I think it is really relevant because as young people, we are most impacted by climate change, considering it's supposed to continue throughout all of our lifetimes and into our children's lifetimes. So I think the message is a little bit more powerful. And I also think as a young person, it's hard to find any power in yourself when it comes to government decisions or policymaking, since a lot of young people can't vote yet or run for office yet. And so I think this lawsuit represents even more to us as young people.
So, Matt, I'd like your take now on what the next legal steps are. I mean, a part of this is all tempered by the fact that it's now up to the state legislature to determine how this all proceeds. How do you expect what I should say is the fallout from this legal ruling?
Yeah, so while, initially, this order is only legally binding in Montana, really held to be state of Montana is a bellwether for constitutional democracies everywhere. And we expect this landmark decision to be used by judges deciding cases here in the United States and frankly, all over the world. Judge Seeley was crystal clear in her decision that all of plaintiffs' fundamental rights were intrinsically linked to their right to a stable climate. And these fundamental rights, like the right to life and equal protection under the law, are found in every constitution in the United States. And really, because young people today have grown up in a world where climate catastrophe is a near daily occurrence, they understand this very simple principle that in order to have the right to life or the liberty to pursue their own happiness, their governments must also protect their right to a stable climate.
So, Claire, obviously, Montana has dealt a lot with the wildfires that are coming from Canada. It's made the air there difficult to breathe. I know I experienced that when I was there just a couple of weeks ago. And that is actually part of the argument for some of the critics of this ruling that said that Montana can't be solely responsible for its environmental conditions. In fact, that there are aspects that Montana and its leaders have no control over. What would you say in response to that in terms of the critics that say that this isn't necessarily a state responsibility?
Well, I think it's everyone's responsibility, and that includes the state of Montana. So we have a responsibility to protect our environment, and if that means limiting our promotion of fossil fuels as a government, then that is what we must do. And yes, climate change is an issue that impacts everyone around the world, but just because Montana can do something about it means that we should.
All right. And I would have to say that regardless of how you feel about the outcome of this particular lawsuit itself, the idea that a group of young people could take action like this and be successful is pretty inspiring. So Claire Vlases and Mat Dos Santos, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.